Hello dears, welcome back. So today we are about to discuss the concept memory, dynamic memory management. So in the last session we discussed the difference between a static and dynamic memory management, right? So I hope you would be remembering the concept of static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation. So once again refreshing all the points. Static memory allocation means the allocation of memory during compilation time, and dynamic memory allocation means that allocation of memory based on demand. So the drawback of static memory allocation was wastage of memory. That is, as such, we are allocating some 100 bytes of memory, and for each and every execution, if we are not using more than 20 bytes of memory, is just an example, okay. So if we are not using more than this 20 bytes of memory, then the remaining 80 bytes is simply getting wasted. But instead, if we are allocating only the required amount of memory, then that would be useful so that we can avoid the memory wastage which is happening during the static memory allocation also, right? So this was our concept of dynamic memory allocation. So static and dynamic mainly means during compilation time and memory allocation during execution time. Okay. So the advantages and disadvantages of static and dynamic memory allocation, that also we considered. A tabular representation also, you have prepared an assignment, right? So I hope that concept. Okay, so moving on, there are mainly three terms in the dynamic memory management. That is the free pool of memory concept, then memory manager, and garbage collector. So actually the first point, free pool of memory. Free pool of memory means it is the total available amount of memory present in the system. Okay. So normally our concept is that it would be arranged as a linked list, and for arranging this memory pool, there is also and there is a method. So here, as the header of the linked list and avail, in order to indicate this is availability, in order to show the availability, here the header concept, that is known as the avail tag. Okay. Then in every block, these all are free blocks, and the size would be mentioned, say 20, this is 5, say 50, say 100, like that. Different size of memory blocks would be there. Then each of the links part would be containing the address to its next link, and the last node would be, the link part of the last node would be marked as null. Okay. So this is how the free pool of memory representation is, and it can be represented in two ways, either by using variable blocks of memory like this, or by using fixed block of memory. That is, all the memory blocks would be of the same size. Say if we are taking, if we are representing all the memory blocks as 50 bytes, then all the memory blocks would be of the same size, that is 50 bytes of memory. But here they are arranged in arranged as different types, and normally it is stored in the sorted order, and if it is kept in the sorted order, then it would be very easy to perform the allocation and deallocation of memory. So that is the concept of free pool of memory. So free pool of memory is the total available space in the system. So this is normally managed as a linked list, and from this space only the requested memory space for each and every program is being allocated based on their size. And even for this allocation, again this fixed block allocation and variable block allocation schemes are there. If the memory is represented as fixed block size, then the algorithm used would be a fixed block allocation algorithm. And whenever that allocated memory is deallocated, and whenever that is no longer required in the program, it can be freed up, right? We have a function, free function. We have seen that function in or deletion of a node program in single linked list and double linked list. You have seen that. So whenever that memory is getting free, they'll be joined back to this free pool of memory. So the allocation of memory is taking place from free pool of memory, and whenever the allocated space is getting freed up, then that is joined back to the free pool of memory. And next is the memory manager. Memory manager, actually what is meant by a memory manager is that this memory manager is a program or it's a software which performs the allocation and deallocation of request and memory spaces from this free pool of memory. That is, the memory allocation and mainly memory allocation. That is the responsibility of this memory manager. And when we say each and every operation, any operation if we consider in a system, each of these operation is a piece of code. That is, behind every action or every event, there will be a piece of code. Even we take the compiler, the interpreter, each and everything, or even a double click, everything is an event, or behind that some piece of code would be there. It's a piece of software. So memory manager is a program which performs mainly the allocation strategy in a free pool of memory. The next is the garbage collector. This is the second part. If the memory manager is taking care of the allocation procedure, then garbage collector is the program which is taking care of the freed up memory from the allocated program area. Okay. So these are the three main terms which comes under this dynamic memory allocation. So next is the allocation schemes, which are the main allocation schemes used. So I already mentioned there are different allocation schemes present in dynamic memory management. So based on the block size, or block nature, allocation scheme can be of two types. Allocation scheme, two types. It is fixed block allocation and variable block allocation. Variable block allocation. Okay, so I already mentioned what is meant by fixed block allocation and what is meant by variable block allocation. If the free pool of memory is arranged as fixed block size, then the algorithm used would be fixed block allocation. That is, I suppose I will represent it using fixed block schemes. Suppose all these blocks are of 50 bytes. Okay, and suppose we are requesting a memory of 200 bytes. So if we are requesting 200 bytes of memory, these 4 blocks of memory would be allocated. And if we are requesting some 25 blocks of memory, then this 50 blocks would be allocated. And even if we are allocating, we have the option of allocating only 50. 50 is the minimum size of a block. So even for the request of 25, we'll have to allocate the block of 50 bytes. So what happens again? Again memory wastage is there, right? So the remaining memory, the residue of allocation, the hole which is being created because of this residue of the memory, which is known as internal fragmentation. We are coming into this fragmentation part. Internal fragmentation. So actually the term fragmentation means that this is the problem of creating holes here and there in the system memory. Because of that, say beyond a particular limit, if the fragmentation exceeds, then the available memory, if we take a total amount of available memory, would be more than that of satisfying a request, but the system is unable to perform that memory allocation. And why it is like that? Because I will show you the example. Suppose first a request came for memory request 25 bytes. So we allocated 50 bytes. So only 25 bytes is required for the program, and the remaining 25 bytes is simply getting wasted. Okay. So a whole concept means in between an allocated area, if some remaining memory spaces are there. Here you can see these shaded area are the allocated spaces. These are the allocated area. And these are the free memory. This is also the free memory. So suppose here 125 byte is remaining, here 110 byte is remaining, and after some time here some 30 byte is remaining. So a total, right now, if we take a total of all these requests, 25 plus 10, 35 plus 30, 65. So a total of 65 byte is ready. That is, all these 68 total of 65 byte is actually the free pool of memory. It's a part of the free pool of memory. And suppose now we have a request of 50 bytes. Okay, requesting 50 bytes. So can the system satisfy this request right now? No, because a single block with 50 byte of memory is not present. But altogether, if we consider, more than 50 byte is present, but the system is unable to perform the memory allocation. This is what the problem of internal fragmentation is. Clear? So internal fragmentation is a problem of free memory, scattered free memory here and there in the system. And if the level of this internal fragmentation, two types of fragmentations are there, we are coming to that point only. So if this fragmentation exceeds a particular limit, then our system will slow down and it will get hang. All these problems will occur. So this is the problem of fragmentation. So we will come into that. So we were discussing fixed block allocation. So I already mentioned if all the blocks are of same size, then we will have to assign a minimum of that single block to every incoming request. If the incoming request is having a size more than the block size, then multiple blocks of memory area we will provide. And if the incoming request is smaller than the block size, even then we will have to allocate a single block to that request like this. If a request of 25 bytes is coming, we'll have to allocate 50 bytes of memory. And the remaining 25 byte is simply getting wasted, and that creates a hole. Okay, and this hole, because of the allocation of memory, that is, during the allocation, some memory is being the residue part. And because of that, one fragmentation is happening. That fragmentation is known as the internal fragmentation. I hope that concept is clear. So that is fixed block allocation. And if the free pool of memory is represented as fixed block size, then the algorithms used would be fixed block allocation schemes and deallocation scheme. Deallocation. Then next is variable block allocation. If the free pool of memory is arranged as variable size memory, then it would be normally it is stored in the sorted order only. In the sorted order of the size. See, this is 5, this is some 15, this is some 27, then 55. Like that, in the increasing order of the memory size only, it would be represented. Then whenever a particular block is required, suppose request of 25 byte is coming, then it will be compared with each of the memory blocks starting from the first node till it reaches the apt memory location, which creates the maximum less internal fragmentation. So such a block will be found out from this entire list. Then it is very easy, right? Because already they are arranged in the increasing order of their memory. It is very easy to find out the correct block. Correct block means that may not be the correct block, but some residue would be there, of course, but that residue memory amount would be very less. Okay. So here, in order to satisfy the request of 25, a block of 27 byte is there. Okay. So this would be the memory block which is allocated to this request. So a remaining 2 bytes of memory would be there as a whole. That is internal. That creates an internal fragmentation. Okay. So in variable block allocation method, the allocation and deallocation method used will be variable block allocation and deallocation algorithm. So these are the two allocation and deallocation strategy based on the block nature. That is the method in which the free pool of memory is arranged, whether it is in the fixed block size or in the variable block size. So this is the first concept. So next we have another classification based on the scheme or the method by which they are getting allocated. So that classification also will continue. So next we are considering the next classification of dynamic memory allocation scheme based on the order of allocation. The order of allocation means how the incoming request is satisfied, in which order it is getting allocated, or how that request is being processed. Okay, so based on that order, there are four main strategies: first fit, best fit, next fit, and worst fit. And normally in our data structure or in C programming, almost all the terms work based on its meaning only. Okay, so it is very easy to remember the process of or the working of each of these strategies from the name itself, because the name itself reveals its operation. Say, let's take the first fit operation. So these are the four allocation strategies. So let's take this is the free pool of memory. Okay, this is the free memory available in the system. Suppose this much blocks are available, and these are the two requested blocks, and we are going to see in which order each of these four strategies would be handling these two incoming requests, in which order it would be handling these two incoming requests. Okay, so the first fit, what does the first fit do is that it will allocate whatever memory location which is available from the first location, that would be allocated for a request. So that is first fit. We will take the example. Then the best fit, instead of allocating the very first block which is available or which can satisfy the incoming request, it would search for the best memory area which can create a less residue, or it will consider the case where it can reduce the chance of internal fragmentation. So the best suited memory would be found out, and that would be allocated for the requested area. So that is best fit. Then next fit is having the same procedure as that of first fit, but it starts from the location where we had stopped with the last allocation scheme. That is, suppose with the previous scheme, that is with the best fit allocation scheme, we have stopped here. Then if the next allocation is being done based on the next fit scheme, then it would be starting from this point only, but it would be following the first fit allocation. That is, from this point, whichever block is available first, that would be allocated for the request, like that. The next is the worst fit. So the name itself indicates this is the worst method in out of these four strategies. So the worst method is that whatever request comes, regardless of the requested size, it will search for the largest block which is present, and that would be allocated for the first request. Okay, then the next second large memory block is found out for the next time, then that would be allocated for the next request. So like that. So in that case, what is the drawback of, so you can imagine what is the drawback of worst fit scheme, right? That is internal, that level of internal fragmentation will be very high. So out of all these methods, the best method is the best fit algorithm, because that find out the correct or whichever memory block is apt for the incoming request, that is only allocated. So this is best fit is considered as the best allocation strategy out of these four methods. So we will consider these two requests and how each of these method would be processing the incoming request out of these allocated free pool from the free pool of memory. So first we will consider first fit scheme. So according to first fit scheme, we are starting from here. First request is of 2 byte. So for 2 byte, it will check whether the first block is able to satisfy the incoming request. Okay, the first block itself is 5 byte. It can anyway satisfy the request. So for the 2 byte request, 5 byte block will be allocated. Then next request is 10 byte. So as it is represented, the second, it will move on to the second block. So as the second block is capable of satisfying the request, then for 10 bytes, 17 byte of memory is allocated. Okay. Then next is best fit. So for best fit algorithm, first is 2 byte memory. So for satisfying the 2 byte request, it will search 5 byte. Okay, let it be there. It will search next byte, next block. It is 17 byte. So it is also very large. So it will go for next block. 2.5, then it will consider 50. So it can understand from the searching process, it can understand 2.5 is the best suited location for satisfying the 2 bytes request. So for 2 bytes request, the memory area which is allocated will be 2.5 bytes. Okay. The next is 10 bytes request. So again, it will search all the location, then it can find out that 17 byte is the best suited area or best suited block to satisfy this request. So 10 for 10 byte, again 17 bytes. Even though the 17 bytes block is being allocated for this 10 bytes request in both first fit and bus fit, that doesn't matter because the working of these two methods is really different. Okay. The next is next fit. So with the previous allocation, that is bus fit allocation, we stopped here, right? So for the next fit allocation would be starting from this point. So which is the next request? 2 bytes request. So the next one, if this 2.5 is already with our best fit allocation, 2.5 is already allocated. Okay, so even though we start from this location, it will move on to this location, it is already allocated. Then it will move on to the next location, that is 50. So that doesn't matter. This is capable of satisfying the request of 2 bytes anyways. Okay, so our next fit, we will allocate for 2 byte memory request, it would be allocating 50 bytes, and then again 5 and 17. 17, suppose 17 is already allocated. Or there are two types of allocation scheme in these 4 classification, that is by considering the residue and without considering the residue. Those two memory allocation schemes are also there. So that I will tell you in detail. So right now, if 50 byte is allocated already, then again 5 byte which is not available, it is already allocated, or next is 10 bytes request is the next one. So in order to satisfy, the next byte available will be 17. So for 10 byte, again 17 byte will be allocated. Okay, then for the verse fit. For the first request, in order to satisfy the first request, that is 2 bytes, it will find out the largest memory area available, that is block of 50. So that will be allocated. Then next is 10 bytes request. So again, it will search the entire free block. Then it will find that 17 is the. So here in all the cases, almost all the cases, we got 17 bytes for the second slot, right? But that doesn't matter because in all these 4 methods, how the 17 byte came into that place, that working method differs. Okay, that is in first fit, it just simply followed starting from the first part, it followed the method. Then the best fit, it found out the most suited block from the entire blocks. Then in next fit, it started from the point where we have stopped with the last procedure. Then it followed first fit strategy. Then for the worst fit, it allocated the largest block present first, then the second largest. Okay, so this is the working method. If we take some other example, the values may differ. Okay, so we will take a university exam question. Normally, this is a sure question for the university exam. So we will take such a question and we will work out. Okay, so this is the 4 strategies of dynamic memory allocation: first fit, best fit, next fit, and worst fit allocation scheme. So I hope this concept is clear to you. Thank you. The next concept which is coming associated with the allocation and deallocation process, or we can say that a disadvantage of this allocation and deallocation dynamic process is that the fragmentation. And fragmentation is the presence of free memory halls here and there in the system memory. Okay, the presence of small free memory area here and there in the system memory, that creates the problem of fragmentation. And what is the problem of fragmentation is that if we take the total of all these holes together, that would be a huge amount of data. But as they are not available as a single block size, because of that, the system would not be able to satisfy the incoming request. Okay, so this is the problem of fragmentation, and there are mainly two types of fragmentation. First one is internal fragmentation, and next one is external fragmentation. And what is meant by this internal fragmentation is that whenever we are performing an allocation process, suppose we consider this example. First block here, there won't be any separation. It would be represented as a total 150 by block. 50 plus 100, 150 by block is free at the initial part of free pool of memory. Suppose some 100 byte of request is coming, 100 byte. So the first 100 byte would be allocated. Okay. Then next already 100 is allocated, so only 50 is remaining. Then in that, so here 50 is available. Right now, some 40 bytes of memory is required. Okay, second request is coming as 40 bytes request. So here, out of this total 50 memory block, so 40 memory byte would be allocated. 40. And the remaining 10 is kept as residue. And this 30 bytes of residue also happened like this, would have been created like that only. That is, it would be some 100 plus 30, 130 bytes of memory, free space would be there, and a request of 100 would have come. Then by allocating 100 block, the remaining 30 bytes of memory is being the residue. So again, 30 plus 10 bytes, a total of 40 bytes is staying as residue. So these are known as internal fragmentation. Actually, if the amount of this internal fragmentation is very less in the system, that doesn't create any problem. But you imagine if the level of this fragmentation goes high, goes further, it increases further, then suppose even right now, if right now here only 40 bytes of memory is available, but as 10 byte and 30 byte. And what if a request of 40 comes again? Could it handle this incoming request? No, because a single block of 40 byte is not there. Even if a total of 40 byte of memory is there, it cannot satisfy the request because this is scattered. So this is the problem of internal fragmentation. And this internal fragmentation happens due to the residue memory area of the allocation process. Okay, so internal, so normally students are getting confused with this concept. So you should remember, internal fragmentation happens due to allocation process. Memory allocation process. And in order to explain it, during allocation, some unwanted memory is being as the residue memory area, and the residue memory area here and there, if it happens in the system memory, that creates the concept of holes, and that is known as the internal fragmentation. Okay. Then next is external fragmentation. Okay. Suppose this 50 block of memory, the second block of memory, 50 block of memory was allocated to some program, and out of this 50, some 10 byte is freed up first. Okay, can you imagine? In between, some 10 byte of memory got freed up. The remaining 40 is only required. So 10 byte is freed up. That is a free area right now. Then again, out of this 100 bytes of memory, in between some 30 byte is freed, and that 30 byte of memory is no longer required in the program, that got freed up from the program. Okay, so a 30. So in between the allocated area, some holes are being created here and there because of deallocation process. Okay, that also creates the concept of a fragmentation. Here we can see both these concepts are the same, but the internal fragmentation is happening due to the allocation because of the residue of the allocation process, and external fragmentation happens due to the deallocation process here and there. From in the middle of a program, if it is freeing up a single node, then only 10 bytes or 15 bytes is getting freed. So that creates a halt. When the next node is again, if we are deleting another node, again some 15 bytes is getting freed up. So that again creates a halt of 15 bytes. So like that, if the number of freeing process increases, the number of halts also increases, and that is known as external fragmentation. So this happens due to deallocation process. Deallocation process. So you have to remember, internal fragmentation is happening because of allocation process, and external fragmentation is happening due to deallocation process. Both these fragmentation, if it is in small scale, that doesn't affect the system. But if it goes further, if it grows further and exceeds a particular limit, then that really affects the system in an adverse manner. Okay, so these are the two concepts: internal fragmentation and external fragmentation. And there is a remedy for this method, which is known as compaction. We don't have this topic in our syllabus still. You understand, a remedy for this internal and external fragmentation is compaction. And in compaction, what we do is that we combine all these scattered halts here and there into a single block. Either at the end of this linked list, or to the middle, like that, we'll combine all these space together, and we'll make it useful for satisfying the next request. Okay, if we combine all these memory here itself, then 40 plus 50 plus 30, 80. So a total of 80 bytes of memory is combined together. So if 70 bytes of request is coming, even then we can the system can satisfy that request, because a single block of 80 bytes is available. So with the help of this compaction, the level of internal and external fragmentation can be reduced to a considerable level. Okay, so these are the concepts: internal fragmentation, external fragmentation, and as a remedy for these two problems, the remedial method, compaction. So I hope these concepts are clear. Thank you.